There we go. Hey, everybody, we are live. Um, I think one of the things I want to do is work on a little bit of a good fun transition into the interview. So I'll try to figure out some clever stuff.
Sure.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Ken Stearns. I'm the host of the Jar Foundation podcast. This is all about, it's all really all things mental health. And today, really kind of exciting for me because I have a guest who's an old friend, Jessica. Morning, Jessica.
Good morning.
And Jessica and I met on the road with the Jar,
Mm-hmm.
the original Jar podcast, and we had a great interview on her back porch. She was like the hostess with the mostest. We had, I had snacks and all kinds of stuff, and it was a great kind of a fall. It's fall, I guess it was a summer day, kind of getting into the late summer, and just impressed by Jessica's story, her tenacity, her willingness to face life and kind of face her demons a little bit, like the life demons, not your demons in your head, but the demons of life, and kind of get back on the saddle. And a lot of that, again, one of the reasons we're doing the show is her own journey is not about a guided one all the way, right? It's a lot about self-discovery and kind of grinding it out. And I thought you're a good, and then trying to do something, Jessica, with your life experiences and putting that to purpose. And I think that's a great, and I think it's a great sharing. And so I want to make sure today we get a little bit who you are,
Yeah.
and how you kind of ended up where you're at, and I love what you're doing today. And so I want to make sure we get people, the message we walk away with is how to kind of turn you know how to turn those life experiences into action, really. And even though
Mhm.
you may not know what the end result, a bit like me, you're
Yeah.
going down that road.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's interesting. The end result. I've been I've been thinking a lot about that and talking a lot about that with people. This idea that there is like everything that happens, every tool that we have is just sort of these puzzle pieces, and we
Mm,
don't have, you know how you're putting a puzzle together, you have the picture in front of you.
yeah.
We don't have the picture in front of us
Oh,
necessarily. We might have like a vision, some direction of where we're going, but all of these pieces are coming in. So it's kind of figuring out, okay, how do all of these pieces work together? And what is that
ooh.
larger picture going to look like?
Oh, I love that analogy.
And for a lot of people, I think that's really scary. And I think even for me, in when I was younger, that's a scary place. Uncertainty can be really
Yeah.
scary place. I now feel an excitement about uncertainty. And I think it's because I have at least a better idea of the direction that I'm going.
Hmm. Hmm. How did
And
you? Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to
Uh,
more tools to pivot or to adapt to change and
yeah.
situations that come in that may be uncomfortable, challenging, difficult.
Hmm. How about a little background? Maybe tell a
Yeah.
little of your background story, your backstory.
Yeah.
And
So
then
this is great because I am working on a book. So now that I've said that
oh, put,
live,
put it out there in the universe.
keeping me accountable for writing it. Um, and I'm starting with the passing of our twins.
Hmm.
So, you know, you can hear that episode. I think it's episode 72 on
Numbers. Okay, that's great.
the Jar podcast. Um, so 2014, 23-week, pregnant with twins, is going well, going well. And then 23 weeks, the heart stopped. So from that point, I really had no idea that was going to be my life, right? I
Hmm.
had no idea where to go from there. That was what I expected to be my purpose. I had
Hmm.
purchased, I joined a twins group on Facebook. I purchased all these different items. Um, that now were going to get no use.
You
So
had the puzzle. You had the puzzle picture.
yeah, I thought I did.
Yeah, you. I mean, you had it there in front of you. It's in your mind, right? You had it,
Yeah.
and that was really shattered.
Yeah. So so after a few months of mourning and grieving, and the spring, so this was in fall, it was actually the day before Thanksgiving, and I remember that we found out a couple days maybe before Thanksgiving, that was the day before Thanksgiving 2014, that we found out that their heart stopped. And the specialist who we just met, she came in and she said, it's okay to not be thankful. And I said, I still have things to be thankful for. Like, it was just this really powerful moment of strength in that moment. Certainly a long road to and still continuing to process and heal. But in that moment, I found that strength to still have some bit of gratitude, even in the face of that loss. And the day after Thanksgiving, so we still met with family on Thanksgiving. Everybody kind of said their goodbyes. We still miraculously had laughs. There was sadness, but there was also levity. And the day after, we delivered, and it was hard. It was hard for everybody. The spring following that, the next year, I was like, you're watching everything in bloom. Other people are having babies, and I was getting really bitter. I was upset about the coming of life because I had this loss.
Yeah, absolutely.
At some point, and this is a piece that I'm still trying to figure out, what is it in people that they just decide that they don't want to feel a certain way, or that they want to change. I don't know what that is. Like, if there was like something that some way that we could figure that out. But I just decided I didn't want to feel this way. I didn't want to be bitter.
It's the two roads, right?
Yeah.
I just had an interview with somebody who had a loss like this, and he's like, there's two roads: bitter, dark, dank,
I watched it.
angry.
Yeah.
You know what, right? His interview, whew, or you take this road of it's, the other road.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you changed roads.
Yes. One thing I think that did help early on is that after that loss, I didn't have necessarily a problem with drinking, but I drank. But after that loss, I took like a month or month and a half off from drinking, because I knew that would be a problem, or that could be a problem, because I was in this really bad emotional
Well, you're
state.
just numbing yourself.
Right. So I did make that decision. But in the summer, I was like, I don't want to be bitter. So at the time I was going to a church, I started meditating. I started just being open to whatever I could hear, whatever I could receive. I remember having this sort of vision, and maybe this is a little frou-frou for some people, but I remember having this vision of these two like cherubim, and this rainbow, and these like hearts kind of tying together. And it inspired actually the tattoos that both my husband and I have. We have two red balloons, and the strings are their names. And we did name them Darling and May. We named them actually what their middle names would be. So we've never revealed what their first names would have been. So in that summer, so I started with kind of like that mental piece of, okay,
Yeah.
how can I slow down? And
Yes.
then I stumbled upon a book because I was looking for inspiration. I was looking for motivation. And I stumbled upon a book called 1000 Ways. Because I was just looking for this 1001 Ways to Live in the Moment. And that's by a gal, Barbara Ann Kipfer.
Okay.
Stumbled upon that book. Could not tell you what I what I read in it. It was a while back, but I remember that helped, just having some way to slow down and get into a mindful space. I was listening to a local radio station, and an advertisement for a singing group came up, and I love singing. So I joined that group for a couple years, and that helped. So it was basically just kind of this journey of trying things that I thought would help just intuitively, without the science, without knowing the
Yeah.
science
Yeah.
behind these things. Just intuitively, I thought, okay, singing and dancing, I need, and social connection, because it was a Sweet Adeline's choir, chorus. Yeah, Sweet Adelines. Yep, I was in Sweet Adelines.
It's confession time.
With the doll makeup and everything.
I
Um,
love it. I love it.
so I joined that, and just for a couple years, it was a lot. Um, and then I got into yoga. So I
It
had,
was. I love that. And then I got into yoga. It's
and then
all
I got
over
into,
after that.
yeah. So I had actually practiced yoga before, um, just as like another, like an alternative.
Yeah.
I've always been into fitness. So it was more of a physical practice for me, just a different way to move my body. And then when I was pregnant, I needed to slow down. When we found out that we had twins, I needed to slow down what I was doing with my workouts. So I found just some YouTube prenatal yoga classes. Yeah. So I had been practicing yoga, and I went to a studio for the first time in the fall of 2015. And then the winter of 2016, I started my yoga teacher training.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been doing that. That was, yeah, 2016. So I've been teaching for about 7 years. Um, got really interested the last year or so in, well, I was, when I started teaching, I wanted to learn, well, why are we doing these moves? So it's a curiosity. Always curious about, well, do we really need to do headstand? The answer is no.
I just found. Okay, I love that. Nope.
Do we really need to do, right? There's nothing that you have to do as part of a physical practice of yoga, or even a meditative practice. Um, and so just kind of learning and reworking the way that I taught, the way that I practiced. And then in the past year or so, got really into understanding the neuroscience behind certain healthy habits, um, reading about breathing, James Nestor's book, The New Science of a Lost Art,
Oh yeah.
where he talks about breath. Um, just understanding, I wanted to learn more about the brain and how it works together with the different habits, the different, learn about mindset, learn about habits, learn about how to live our most in the best possible way that we can. Came across Huberman Lab. So Andrew Huberman is a neuroscientist out of Stanford. He has a website called hubermanlab.com, I want to say.
Okay.
Ton of information about everything under the sun, related to neuroscience. So just really got deep into education, and getting curious about what that is. So I put together a program, which I'm still learning about,
Okay.
and teaching called the Empowered Mindset Workshop, looking at how we can build resilience through understanding our mindset. So knowing what we
Mm.
believe, what we believe about ourselves, the world around us, and our relationship to the world around us. That first knowledge piece is so important, that self-knowledge, understanding. And that's not even the change piece. It's not about you need to change. I never want to tell people that. I just want to encourage people to ask themselves questions about what they believe and get curious about their own mindset around
I like that.
areas of life. Yeah.
Stay curious.
Yeah. So building resilience through self-inquiry, asking
Mm.
yourself questions, understanding your mindset, through gratitude. Gratitude when we getting a little sciencey here.
It's
When
all
we
right. Go down the rabbit hole.
So when we express gratitude, it releases both serotonin and dopamine. So serotonin is that contentment piece. It's when that's released, we feel calm. And dopamine is that motivation piece. It makes us want to keep doing the thing. Um,
Love it.
so pairing those two
Yeah,
things
yeah.
together, right? Like we want to keep being grateful. And then mindfulness. And that's the curiosity piece. It's the observing your senses, observing physical sensation, observing emotion without attaching any judgment to it. So we're not saying, I feel bad, that must be bad. We're saying, I feel sad, I feel angry, I feel bitter, I feel happy, I feel joyful. But we're not saying that those things are good or bad. We're just observing, this is where I'm at.
Mm.
And using those ideas as a way to build resilience. And then adding to that, and again, this is just like looking at Huberman, looking at other different books that I've read and articles that I've read, came up with 7 habits that I think can be implemented into just about any schedule. And that's
I like that.
hydration, sleep, rest, or meditation. And I say it that way because I don't get enough sleep. I don't get the proper amount of sleep. I know that. But one of my goals this year is intentional rest. So
Yeah, it's okay.
midday, take, even just for me, and everybody has to decide what works best for them. For me, just a 5-minute lay down works. And then I'm ready to do all the things again.
And get back
So,
on the
yeah,
bicycle.
yeah. So hydration, sleep, rest, or meditation,
Okay.
social connection, which I'm finding is like, you gotta have the support.
You need it.
You've gotta find the support.
You need your tribe.
Yeah. Um, nasal breathing. So rather than breathing through your mouth,
Okay.
um, we have these little tiny hair-like structures in the nose that filter out all the garbage. So we want to do that. We don't want to take all the garbage into our lungs.
Into your mouth.
Out. Yeah. And then nasal breathing also just helps us slow down the breath. It allows for more efficient lung function. And again, that's all from James Nestor's book. Sunlight, or alternatively, there's other types of light pads that you can use.
Yeah.
Yeah. Walking. Alternatively, just moving the eyes back and forth, which I forget what that is, but that's it's a tool that a lot of therapists use to help
Yeah.
people recall trauma uh, while they're doing that, and it helps them recall it in a calm way.
Hmm.
I've uh, yeah, so that was actually used on me by a therapist, is very effective. But what walking does is it automatically creates that eye movement, which is called optic flow. So when we're walking,
Oh,
we're calm.
interesting.
I've also noticed just experimentally when I'm walking with someone, there's so much more openness to talk. Like it feels like my brain moves a little bit quicker and thoughts start to ideas connect rather than when I'm just necessarily sitting down.
Yeah,
Uh,
agree, agree.
yeah. And then lastly, oh yeah, I covered it. That was seven.
Yeah, number 7. Is this the book?
So this will be part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So kind of my journey and how I came up with this sort of plan. And then implementing those into your schedule. So looking at, okay, when I wake up in the morning, what can I put in just before I get out of bed? So one
Hmm.
of the things that I do is I keep a glass of water by my bedside. Both my husband and I have nightstands either side of the bed. We keep water on, and so anytime if we wake up in the middle of the night or wake up in the morning before we go to bed, have a little bit of water, stay hydrated, get that hydration going right away in the morning. Even just moving in bed, so spinal health, uh, mindful movement. Our spine is like the main, like the most important part of our body. It supports the spinal cord, which is the supports the entire nervous system, which lets us know how we're feeling and what's going on in the body, and also lets us know if something is off.
For sure.
So keeping the body moving in rotation and lateral flexion, in flexion and extension, just getting the spine moving to keep it healthy so that we can have good brain and
Yeah.
body function. Yeah,
Um,
I know that's a lot.
no, that was good. That was good. I was going to ask a question, or can first maybe make a comment, which is, I think one of the things that as I'm listening to you is a lot of what I've been sharing on, on different shows, which is this intentional movement, momentum,
Mm,
not body movement, but the things you've been doing. You've been very intentionally doing things forward,
yeah.
not always with an expectation of an outcome.
Hmm.
And I, for me, my experience is that will open the doors, that will lead you, another door and another door, which is what you just shared, the journey, which is, these doors are opening. You're curious to peek inside, which ones you want to learn more. And I think you're going to keep, this kind of evolution is going to keep happening, and you're kind of finding your path. It's really interesting to watch and hear the story now. It's really cool.
Yeah.
To hear it again, in a different kind of a light, or different, not the same story, different, but interesting to see how it's kind of developing. What
Yeah.
what do you think? I mean, what is it? You've gone through all of this, and like I said, you're a perfect test case or classic case for what I'm talking about, which is that self discovery, right? A lot of
Mm,
you've had the therapy, but also you've done a lot of this has been grinding and figuring your own way out. I mean, what advice? What's your looking back from where you're at? Is there a way to shorten this experience for somebody, or is this what the process is and people should have faith around this, faith in the path? And because it's not easy, what you've gone through is you're talking quite a few years now
hmm.
of a journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your self advice if you were to talk to yourself 10 years ago?
I think it would be just I think it would be the advice that I got in creative writing classes from one of my uh, professors and mentors. which is keep going.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's no, this is the beauty and maybe frustration of life, is that timing is different for everybody. I'm learning that. And so I'm learning to develop more empathy with other people who may not have found that the inner strength or the inner light, or may not have perceivably found that, based on different actions or behaviors that they do. But yeah, I think that would be it. And to know, to trust that people are going to be inspired by your story. I've heard there's been so many people who have thanked me for sharing things. It causes this ripple effect. We have this wonderful, it's not regular, and I'm trying to get it to be, but we have this wonderful organization called Story Catchers, and it's this community, community-based storytelling event.
Okay.
That it used to be pre-2020, it used to be every month, but it's been a little on the lighter side lately. But they did host one in January, and it's this beautiful display of people being vulnerable in community, just sharing their story around a certain topic. And it creates, at least for that moment, long term, sometimes some deep connections, but for that moment, it creates this safety around telling your story, knowing that whatever you say here, you're gonna be, it's like the audience that's paying attention is giving you this sort of invisible hug, that it's okay to share.
Yeah.
And so that would be a thing too. Find safe spaces that you can share your story, because there is somebody that needs to hear it.
There is somebody that needs to hear it.
Yeah.
This is so true. I love what you, for sure, after, excuse me, I think one of the things that doing the jar, I for sure, and again, sparked up by these conversations, you just never know what the person next to you has gone through or is going through.
Yeah.
So that part about, giving grace to people, it's a real thing.
It's huge. It's huge.
It's a real thing. We just don't, that person that cut you off in the car, person, the checkout person that's rude, you just don't know what they're dealing with. So have some grace.
And for yourself, because I mean, I'm not, I have all of these tools, but I have bad days where maybe I cut somebody off, or maybe I'm not the nicest person to customer service, right?
Absolutely.
So all just to recognize that this isn't going to be perfect. When I put this empowered mindset stuff together, I wanted to put it together and create these tools that made it accessible for any schedule. And I had in mind, because in addition to all of the things, I'm also a payroll manager at a commercial flooring company. So part of it is that. Part of it is I do a lot, and I don't want to stop doing the things that I'm doing, because I get energy from all of it in some form or fashion. So how can I support myself, and where can I place these different habits or place these different tools? And then also thinking about my employees. They work 12, 14-hour days. physical, very physical stuff, everything from tearing out floors to laying down game lines and putting down graphics. So how can I better support them by bringing them some of these tools? And that's something that I'm still working on, is bringing that, is kind of meeting my passion for mindful movement, meditation, and mindset with my job, with my my bread and butter job, I'd call it.
That's one of the things in the foundation where, the White House signed in a mental health kind of a crisis act, not an act, but I forget what it's like, strategies to help address the mental health crisis. And one of them is bringing tools to the workplace.
Yeah. I just had a industrial-based company reach out to me. So not my own, but another company reached out to me and said, "Hey, we need yoga." I'm like, "All right, let's put together a plan and do it."
It's so true. Even I had the idea. I talked to a couple hotel managers on my journey about using the jar in a group setting to learn empathy and compassion for your fellow worker.
I love that. I love that idea.
So put the jar in the middle with 2 chairs and let people rotate in and out.
Yeah.
Reading each other's question and listening to the person. And then
really listening. Yeah.
You got somebody right across from you, reads a question for you, right? And then you answer it and they listen, but also the whole rest of the company is around you. And then put 2 more people in and you do maybe 4 questions each. Because I think we talked that one of the things is we look at the person that cut us off and we make all these assumptions about why they did it to us, or they're a-hole or whatever we come up with, but reality is they're human. And if we actually met them in a call, like if we met them in line at the grocery store or heard their story, we might have a completely different view. So if we knew what their life's experience or life views were, we'd have some compassion for them and acceptance. And I think at work, we presume a lot and assume a lot about actions, behaviors, and we don't really know people's intent.
Yeah.
We form intent.
Let each other be human and keep trying to do our best.
And trying to get better.
Yeah.
It's a really great conversation, Jessica.
Thank you.
I love the story, and I love the 7 how you're coming along with all the ideas coming together. All your research, really research and life, and then practicing it and kind of recooking it. And it'd be really interesting to see how the book comes along, the structure, when you get it all structured, and then you're done. Once you get the structure, you just got to put then the easy part is just putting in a couple 10,000 words, nothing.
See, and I'm doing it different. I'm just writing. So I have a couple of my first 2 chapters drafted.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about some it's been great. I think maybe 2 more things. One is, any kind of messages, last message. I think you had a good life kind of points there, your reflection part, but any other last message? And then how do people find you if they want to hear more about your story, or they just want to stay in contact or reach out to you?
Yeah.
How do they find you?
Yeah. So,
and again, a message too.
Yeah. A couple quick things. So a friend of mine and I started a podcast called That's Deep with Eden and Jess, which is conversations around vulnerability, authenticity, around certain topics.
Okay.
Just had a wonderful conversation with my dad, and that's going to come out on Sunday.
Can you put that in the chat? Can you type that in the chat so people can? So it's a record.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. You had your dad on the show.
Yeah, we just went.
I'm so jealous.
Went there. Yeah. Yeah. Eden and Jess. Yeah, so that's on both YouTube. So there's a vulnerability element there, just being right, like video like this. So it's on YouTube, but then it's also just about anywhere that you listen to podcasts.
Okay.
And then the other thing, so our first episode was called Going In Afraid, and it's just myself and Eden having a conversation about what we're doing or what we think we're doing or what we're trying to do with this podcast and what it looks like and who we are and why people should care, or maybe why maybe people don't care, and do we care? Right? Like,
I love that.
if we care about it, that's enough. So go in afraid, try things out, see what works. So many good conversations we've had now. 12 guests, 11 episodes are out, and all of them have amazing stories and wisdom share. And then the other thing is just kind of maybe a little promo, and I don't know who this will all see, but I know that I'll be sharing it with my people, so I want to put this out there. Next Tuesday evening, so there's this men's mental health initiative called Dudes and Tacos, and tacos is an acronym. I never remember what it is. People can look it up.
Talk, acceptance, love, kindness, and something.
But it's a free event through a youth services, mental health, and foster care organization, nonprofit organization in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And they're having me on next Tuesday evening, or in next Tuesday evening, to guide Broga, where I'll be guiding some mindful movement, some meditation, and talk a little bit about mindset. And yeah, so tacos is an acronym, but they also serve tacos. So
I mean,
yeah,
great. Those kind of places, interesting to see how those work, and maybe you get some of those stuff becomes grow platform
yeah.
to platform.
And then where people can find me
Yeah.
is on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
on Facebook, on Instagram, just about. I'm on TikTok, but that like it's all kinds of different videos there. So you'll see me doing some yoga, you'll see me doing some walk and talks, but then you'll also see me smoking a cigar. So there's all kinds of, you can really get to know me. I'm all of the things.
I love it.
Yeah.
And smoking cigars.
Yeah. Guys.
Which,
And then my business is called Yoga Story.
And it's called Yoga Story.
Yoga Story, and just this idea that we don't even, I just said, don't be afraid to tell your story. But for those of us that it's difficult, we can use the body, we can use movement to express emotion and to tell our story through movement. It is, and that's huge. There's a lot of people where it is hard to share. So what else can I do? You can move your body. We just about all of us have some capacity to move our bodies in some form or fashion.
Absolutely. Yeah. Jessica, thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Ken. It was so good to see you and talk to you.
Yeah, it's really great to see you and chat and catch up.
Thank you to all who listen.
Yeah, we get,
watch.
Yeah, we got, I think we'll get we'll also ultimately we'll put this up on the foundation. We have a channel on YouTube, or not YouTube, well, YouTube. It'll go on our YouTube channel for the jar as a stream. Goes on LinkedIn on my profile. And then we're also, we're on Facebook. We'll be on the jar Facebook. So this will be on Facebook. You can find it. And then of course, LinkedIn, and we'll put it up on Apple Podcasts in a couple weeks.
Yay.
So yeah, so it's out there. It's out there in the universe now. And thanks everybody for listening. We've got, randomly get a few people here and there. And I think more people kind of, skim through, and appreciate the comments. Jen Shade, who was a guest, gave us some love. She's great. Radio. Yay. She's our super rock star radio host. She had a great story. So thanks everybody listening and everybody watching. Appreciate it. And again, Jessica, thanks so much for being part of the fabric of the story.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.